Okay, so thank you again for coming. This shows the great success last month was, because instead of the double of the people, I have half. But it's okay, thank you, Lord. We are following a little the encyclical of Benedict XVI, Faith in Hope. So that gives us really a very good guidance to understand better what is that hope that can transform our lives, the hope that we want to live during this year, especially in the parish, but also that hope that we want to live in our lives, especially in these troubled times. For example, we have elections on 9th. We are in the novena of elections. So let's go, hopefully, there. And always remember that the early Christians had it a little more difficult.
Oh, there, on that, so someone had recommended voting early because people are going to polls and they're being told you've already voted. So just as a warning to folks, like,
Wow.
You don't want to, so that way you have some time to resolve that if that does come up.
Interesting. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this month I want to go to the first part of the encyclical, all the numbers, until he begins with the transformation of hope in the modern age. And the purpose of this is that, how do we learn to live hope? And you know better how family is the base of everything that we live and who we are. So we are given our own identity in our family. We receive everything in our family. And from there we can build, but we always start with what we lived and we received in the family. So same thing is for the church. So how do we learn to live hope, to live in hope? Well, remembering how the church, our family, has lived hope. And the church has gone through different times. And today, it's not that I'm going to go in detail over that, but we have the early Christians. Very soon the persecution starts with the Jews and then with the Roman Empire. And there is no power today in the world compared with the Roman Empire. It's true that our little empires have more technology to control us more thoroughly. But we are not yet martyrs in the circus or in the public square. It's a matter of time. So he had it really tough. How did they live hope in a world that was pagan, in a world that was about the things of earth, in a world that was about lies and deceit and taking advantage of others and wealth and immorality? So, well, I can give you say, Father, this is a little worse than the Greek and Roman time with immorality. I will give you that. But not a big difference. How in that time the Christians lived their hope and let hope transform their lives. And I would say the most immediate answer is the saints. Let's look at the saints, how they lived hope. And this is why St. John Paul II, whose memory we celebrated 2 days ago, wanted to propose models of holiness for all states of life. So he was really intentional about canonizing not only married people, but couples as such. And you know that there were couples, at least I remember now one, that were canonized with only one miracle for the two of them. So it's not that each one had to do a miracle. No, they as a couple. Okay? So look at holy lay people and holy couples, and that will give you a little insight and learn how to live hope. This is a sentence that I took also from the encyclical in the first paragraph. The self-understanding of the early Christians was shaped by their having received the gift of a trustworthy hope. No? Really, they were aware of that. And certainly in them is different because they come from paganism to suddenly receive a new hope and receive the announcement of Christ. That was totally new because Nobody has heard about him, first because he was not here, and it was in the first century when that announcement of the gospel started. No? And really was a incredible transformation of the life of all these early Christians that was so powerful that could draw more and more people into the church. And not only slaves or poor people that, well, anything that brings them hope is welcome. No, people from all different positions in society. We have a very clear example, and also because of the strength of his witness and his words, St. Paul. He was himself a persecutor of the church. He was converted. How? By the personal encounter with Jesus. And I first write, St. Paul announced Christ, whom he encountered. No. Whom encountered him, is different, was Jesus, the one coming out to meet him and to show him a new hope and a way of life. And then he became that powerful evangelist, and also he could remind the Christians, okay, see how was your life before knowing Christ and then after baptism. Now you have a new life. All those things are behind. I'm not going to step on my own homily, but today's gospel can be also a good example for us. Jesus is going on his way, on the road towards Jerusalem. And this blind man learns that it's Jesus and begins to cry out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. So he's healed, and he begins to follow Jesus, leaving behind his old way of life. And this also happens because he has received, and there are a couple of homilies of Benedict talking about this, he has received the gift of the light of faith. Faith and hope are really interconnected. Because we have faith that is that personal encounter with God that begins a new relationship with him. In that experience of encountering God, his love, we are given as a gift a new hope. And that hope is the hope of eternal life. That is totally certain because Jesus himself has risen from the dead. So then it's not that now we will begin to live just thinking about heaven and we forget earth. No. That is the light that enlightens us to make the journey of life. It's a powerful light. It's a life that gives us a certainty about what do we live, what do we hope. And that hope is that anchor that helps us to be, well, rooted, firm, stable, firmly rooted in Christ, in our hope, in what we believe, and then do the journey of life. Because if not, life has no meaning, because we have no end. So where are we going? No? There is I don't know if you heard this from me or any other disciple, because this is something that we bring often. What is the difference between a pilgrim and a guy in a carousel?
A carousel?
A carousel? Yes. The guy in the carousel can move really fast. The carousel can spin so fast and goes nowhere. Exactly. The pilgrim maybe step after step, even little baby steps, but is going somewhere. That is to have a meaning in your life. That is to have a hope. And that hope opens for you a path. If not, you can be in the carousel of modern life, of modern technology, on a super phone 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, whatever you want, and you go nowhere. So, I bring here also the text of the first encyclical of Benedict. That is, that's a very strong idea in him, how faith is what? Being Christian is not the result of an ethical choice or a lofty idea, but the encounter with an event, a person, which gives life a new horizon and a decisive direction. It's an encounter with a person. That means a new relationship. And that is something very beautiful that also Pope Benedict in his encyclical says about the early Christians. That they begin a new relationship with God, and that immediately creates a new way of relationship with the others. For example, between masters and slaves. So now they begin to live a fraternity, recognizing, so it's not a social revolution, the structures of society do not change. What changes is the soul of those structures who are the persons. So that's a question for you to consider. Your personal encounter with Jesus, is that something that is transforming yourself? That's the first question that I put for reflection down there. Is the Christian faith also for us today a life-changing and life-sustaining hope? Is it performative for us? Is it a message which shapes our life in a new way? So, the real faith changes life because it's a personal relationship. And think, for example, when you met, and you began to date each other, and how you wanted to begin a new way of life and to join yourself to someone for your whole life. That is our encounter with Jesus. And now you live that not at a personal level, but as a couple. It's you as a couple who intently want to do the journey of your life with Jesus, following him. As the man in the gospel today, he left behind everything, his former way of life, and enlightened by the life of faith with that new hope, he began a new pilgrimage after Christ, discipleship. Well, so a little more about learning from the early Christians, the transforming power of hope is the second bullet. Two texts of encyclical. The one who has hope lives differently. Okay? I didn't ask that way. It's number 2, but does hope make me and my family live differently? So what's the difference that makes hope in your life? And you can talk about it. Another text at the beginning of the number 3, Paul is talking to the Ephesians as he's reminding them, before their encounter with Christ were without hope because they were without God in the world. To come to know God, the true God, means to receive hope. This is why faith and hope go together. We who have always lived with the Christian concept of life, of God, and that's also a very insightful point, and have grown accustomed to it, and thanks to God, your children are growing accustomed to it, have almost ceased to notice that we possess the hope that ensues from a real encounter with this God. No? So how to make more visible, more intentional, more conscious this hope, this faith, this newness of life that, again, thanks to God, you have been living in your families and your children are living. Right? And then I have a little suggestion as question 3 for reflection. How the coming celebrations of saints, or souls, can help us to be aware of the great hope we have been given and to celebrate it. No? So maybe taking advantage of how the church accompanies us during the journey of the year, with the liturgical year, different celebrations can help us. For example, Thanksgiving, no? And see how we do. I don't know if the menu that you have for Thanksgiving is very different from the Thanksgiving in the neighbor that is not believing in anything, no? And can have kind of crazy life. Turkey, cabbage, the stuffing and all, but we do it in a very different way. How can we be more aware, more conscious of that? Because if not, we can begin to enter into, we can just try the carousel, and the carousel begins to spin, and there is no way to step down from the carousel. So then I invite you to reflect with these 3 questions, and then the project for the family that I propose you is next Sunday, the day before All Saints, why don't you come dressed as saints? Okay? And certainly for the children, it's so fun, so much fun and so exciting. But what about you yourselves? Guiding by example, and you will have also fun. So, and then we are planning to have all the saints in the procession, entrance procession, the recessional, also some saints bringing the gifts. And as we will present the gifts, maybe each saint can present and offer his symbol, and then in the recessional, then take back the symbols. For example, Saint Lucy can bring the platter with the ice. Saint Paul can bring his sword. Saint Peter can bring his keys. Another can bring the palm of martyrdom. And I don't know, Saint Catherine can bring a feather. I don't know. So all these things, so that With those things, your children understand that living the faith is fun and is worth and makes their life different. It's not because we do very different things, no, but because our disguises, that means how we dream ourselves in the future are different. Okay, so time for you now to reflect, almost 20 minutes, and to discuss the questions if you want, or Adoration Chapel. Feel free to go to the backyard of the rectory. It's not locked, so you can just pull down the... Well, okay.